What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 19 of Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DeMaria. Thanks for tuning in. Today on the podcast, it's another double interview episode. Just coincidence. Don't get too excited. I'm not trying to put two interviews on each episode. It's just, I just want to interview as many people as possible. And it's just been kind of working out that way. But, I think it's a format that kind of changes things up. It makes it a little bit more exciting. So, don't be surprised to see some more episodes like this down the line. But I am joined by two excellent musicians, separately, of course. The first is the great composer and pianist and electronic composer. I want to make sure I get that out. And educator Nate Trier. And really, really happy to talk to Nate because it's been a really long time. Minus the occasional bantering isms on Instagram, usually over, how nerdy one of or the other or both of us is. Nate and I haven't really seen each other well before the pandemic began. So, it was awesome to catch up with Nate. And then later in the show, I am joined by drummer Adam Szulczewski, who, what more can I say about him? Good dude, good musician, good composer now. He's going to talk about some of the stuff he's released over the last year, and it's really exciting. And I hope at the end of this episode, you go on Bandcamp, you go on iTunes, you go on Apple Music, Spotify, all that gobbledygook, and you start supporting these artists because they certainly enjoy it. Nate and Adam both have released really excellent tracks, over the last year, and especially with COVID going on, it's nice to see so much creativity, and we get into that, and I'll I won't ruin the interview section. We'll leave it at that. Real quick, housekeeping wise, Mind the Hang returns. It returns this week. Today is February 7th, and February 11th is our first Mind the Hang show since December. It's going to feature the Brandon Terzakis trio with Mike Carabello on keyboard, piano, Fender Rhodes, and Zoe Bellapierre. I'm sure I said that wrong. And Zoe, I'm so sorry, man. On bass, Zoe, fantastic bass player, fantastic human. Mike Carabello, one of my favorite pianists I've ever gotten the chance to work with. And Brandon, excellent drummer, doing a shitload on online, promoting his own stuff. We're going to get Brandon, Mike, and Zoe, I'm sure, sometime on the show. But they are going to be performing at this month's Mind the Hang concert series at the LA Center of Contemporary Art in New Haven, Connecticut. I am so excited. And you know what? That show, we are able to pay the musicians on public funding alone, and I'm really proud of that. And how can you help out? Well, glad you asked. Go to patreon.com/NHVJU and sign up. For as low as $2 a month, $2, you can help support jazz in New Haven, Connecticut. And while I'm on it, I this is so dumb. The only problem I have with Patreon is if you change your credit card or debit card, or which is how most people set up their patronage. If you change that card, because you say you lost your debit card or or expired or something, Patreon doesn't tell you. So spare me the embarrassment of having to reach out to you and say, hey man, do you still want to support or not? Because a lot of times 9.9 out of 10 people replace their card, and they didn't even know that they're because Patreon doesn't help out there. So anyway, thanks to Anthony Pellegrini for checking in on that. He is the man. And see my episode with Anthony Pellegrini on Mr. Millennial's Revenge. But anyway, you could sign up for as low as $2 a month and support live jazz and the Jazz Underground in New Haven. It's a great organization, if I do say so myself. We are hopefully going to be getting more and more musicians employed as the warmer months come out. We want to, we're itching to do some outdoor stuff, man, and it's right around the corner, So hopefully we can have some kind of virtual block party or semi, we'll call it the hybrid model, right? Maybe sort of in person, sort of online, jazz block party this year because, man, we missed out. So anyway, go to patreon.com/NHVJU, hit that subscribe button, and sign up for as low as $2. You can go up to $20 if you're feeling very generous. And also, thank you to all of our patrons. Without you, we couldn't do this. Don't forget, hit that like button on Facebook and hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We're trying to. It's been slow, and I apologize for that, but we're trying to get all the Hang concerts on the YouTube channel so that you can watch them after the fact. If there is one that you're looking for, just go on facebook.com/NHVJU, and you can watch them in our video tab. So all the concerts past will be available. And, it's a good model so that if there was a show that you particularly liked or maybe you were a part of, you can go back and watch it, and that's pretty dope. So definitely check us out online. Patreon.com/NHVJU and Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the gobbledygook. Anyway, check it out. So this is actually a really special episode. The Jazz Underground is 2 years old. Yay! I need to put in some studio audience celebration. No, seriously. Groundhog Day 2019 was the official first day of the New Haven Jazz Underground. It started with just making a Facebook page, the very one I was plugging a couple seconds ago. Fuck the pandemic, right? Because let me put it this way. The Jazz Underground started in February of 2019. By June of 2019, we put on a 4-day festival. That is no joke. And I couldn't have done it without all the musicians and supporters who help out with the underground, because it is definitely a labor of love, and it's a volunteer labor of love. So you really got to want to do it. You really got to believe in the music if you want to make this stuff happen. But before the pandemic, we had 6 regular series that happened. There was almost not a day of the week where you couldn't check out jazz in the great Elm City, and it was because of the efforts of the New Haven Jazz Underground. And it's so bittersweet to think about that kind of stuff, but I know we'll return to it. But holy shit, 2 years, we made it. I talk about it as we because I started it out without any expectation that anyone would help out, but so many people have. They've been on the show: Alec Rice, Anthony Pellegrini, Avery Collins, Adam Szulczewski. I'm blanking. There are so many people I'm leaving out, and I'm so sorry. I gotta write down notes before I do these episodes, but the monologue part is usually pretty, sketched out, basic stuff. But no, anyone who's ever helped out with the underground, I couldn't have done it without you, and it really is a team effort. And thanks to the love of Karen Ponzio, Brian Slattery, Alexis Robbins. I'm trying to think. The gang at 3 Sheets, Mark and the Altale Florian team. This couldn't have happened. The whole idea was to unite the community, and I felt like we did that. We were planning. I think I talk about this with Adam in his interview. We were planning the 2020 Jazz Block Party. And then, lockdown was, the next week. No joke. I think probably early March, we had a meeting at 3 Sheets and started the planning process. And then we got hit. And, we've been trying to do our best. And I still believe that it can happen. We're just still on pause. And I know it's so frustrating approaching, we're at 345 days of this nonsense, but I'm remaining hopeful, and I know that if we could, if it could happen once, it can definitely happen again. But it truly felt like a community. It really did. It truly felt like a scene, And that's all it really was meant for. It was, I had experience working with like quote unquote more established organizations, that put on festivals and stuff. And it just frustrated me that they didn't care about, there would be like Jazz Week, and the New Haven Jazz Festival. And then, from there, it seemed like they forgot about jazz the rest of the year. And that's what the Underground was focused on. The Underground was focused so much on making, the everyday in jazz count. And that was the whole point. I wanted weekly shows. I wanted, monthly shows. And we had it going. And anyway, I know I'm rambling. But, the Underground exists because of the people that believe in it. So I am very grateful. And, I hope it shows, and I can't say thank you enough to all the people that have helped out in one way or another, whether it's becoming a Patreon subscriber or someone just willing to help out and run a show or, provide an amp for a visiting musician or something. Thank you, because the Underground has been a dream of mine for a long time, and it's very humbling to see all the support that we've gotten, that I've gotten, and that the people who believe in the Underground. It's really special. So, with that being said, please continue to support the Underground. Please continue to believe in the Underground. It exists to create a vibrant scene in New Haven. New Haven is a beautiful town. It's an artsy town. It's a town with great jazz history, and it belongs to its musicians and its listeners and fans and all that stuff. So the Underground will still be here. A pandemic couldn't stop it, and you could start with that support by checking out our Mind the Hang show this coming Thursday, February 11th, and stay and keep supporting. So anyway, thank you so much, and happy birthday to my baby. Happy birthday to the New Haven Jazz Underground, to many, many more years. All right, so because this is a double interview episode, that will be it for the monologue section. Thank you for bearing with me. But no, up first is my interview with Nate Trier. Nate is a composer, pianist, synthesizerist, and a really cool dude. And I met him many, many years ago at a New Haven Improvisers Collective workshop. And Nate and I have worked together in many, many ways over the years, whether it's free jazz, weird jazz, straight ahead jazz, everything in between. Surprisingly, we didn't bring up some of the worst, one of the worst gigs, bands that we've played together. I can't believe I'm just thinking about it right now, but that will have to be for the next time we have Nate on the show. But check it out. Nate's got some really cool tracks that he's been releasing pretty regularly, and we talk about him and all that good stuff. So Nate's a great guy, bit of a nerd. Check out my interview with Nate Trier. And joining me now on the episode in the Zoom world is none other than composer and educator, Mr. Nate Trier. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How you doing?
Good, man. It's been a long time since I've seen you.
It's been too long, yeah.
I think I have that exact same plaid shirt you're wearing. I really do.
Yeah, it's like a Target special or something.
Yeah. Old Navy, something of the sort.
Yeah, yes. That sounds about right.
Nothing cracks me up more than I don't know when you did it, but you had coined shirts like that as ska casual. Yes. And that was the first time I had ever heard that. And I had never heard a term that equated to my attire so well. And I still use it to this day. And it's from like what, 2009 or something.
I think so. Yeah.
One
of like BS text exchanges back and forth. Yeah.
Funny enough, I saw that there's some like
ska page or something I follow on Facebook or something, and they released like a compilation as they did back in the day. And I was like, oh, sick, and it's like, local and semi-local bands and stuff. I clicked on it. There were like 75 tracks. I was like, oh my God, this is great. And it was like volume 5. And I was like,
Nice.
Wow, there are that many ska bands still around. That's incredible.
Yeah, they don't do that nowadays. Yeah.
No.
Now that's what I call ska, volume 75.
Right. I did not realize that there were still that many bands. It was pretty magnificent.
Awesome.
So how you been, man? It's been a while. You're still teaching at Cheshire Academy, right? You had, for anyone who doesn't know, Nate used to be a brother in arms in the trenches with me in New Haven as a teacher. You were at the high school in the community, right?
Yep. Yeah.
For a while, okay. And then you went to Cheshire Academy.
Cheshire Academy.
All right. Yes. See, I do remember some things.
All right, yeah.
How's that going? What are you teaching? What's it like? Well, I'm like also legit asking because I haven't seen you in fucking forever, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So yeah, lay it on me.
Yeah, I mean, it's going great. I teach like a little bit of everything. I teach music theory. I teach songwriting. I teach music technology. I teach the jazz band, and I teach the choir.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's a lot, but I guess I have a short attention span, so that's good. Like, there's always something different to do every day.
Sure.
Yeah, I like it a lot. The kids are great, and I like the curriculum. I like my coworkers. It's all good.
I don't know, you could probably fix this for me, but as far as I knew back in like our high school days, the most famous Cheshire Academy alumnus, I wonder if you even know who I'm going to say.
I have no idea who it could possibly be.
James Vanderbeek.
Oh yeah.
That was the buzz back then.
Yeah, highly accurate, absolutely.
But I feel like, wasn't there like a famous hockey player that went there too or something?
You might be asking the wrong guy.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Hockey, right.
Yeah. But Talib Kweli went here too, a hip hop.
No
producer.
Shit. Yeah. Shit. Oh, yep. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's for anyone who doesn't know, Cheshire Academy is your classic New England private school in a pretty affluent suburb of Connecticut. So, these stories are actually quite common in many ways.
I gotta say though, it's like 1,000 times more chill than I thought it would be. My wife started working here first, and when she, I had a similar reaction. She was like, "Oh, I'm going to start working at a private boarding school." I was like, "What?" Because like it's a similar thing.
Did it console you? She just told you. She's like,
"Yeah, pretty much."
By the way, I'm leaving. See ya.
Yeah, well, I had a gig to go to, so we were.
Yeah.
And I had the similar thing with you. Like my best friend in 8th grade, he went to like St. Andrew's boarding school in Delaware, which is where they filmed Dead Poet Society, and he just like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I was like, where did he go? Yeah, but it's a similar thing, I guess, because they're so like self-contained, right? Because it's boarding school, everything you need is right there. Yeah, so then like I like started meeting the people here, and I was like, oh, this is cool, like actually, and I started working here part-time, and I taught the jazz band like part-time and stuff like that, and I played piano in the pit for the musicals and stuff.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh, everyone's here is like cool. This is all right. So
yeah. And then you're one day you're like, they trust me with children. What idiots.
Well, they were like, now we're looking for weird faculty, Nate. So you're perfect.
Right. Yeah, they need. Yeah, exactly. They want to be attractive, so they think like hiring the weirdos and the artsy people will like bring people in.
I'll go with artsy people.
Yeah, funny enough, I don't know if you ever met him. My best friend Jared Caddy, he teaches up at the Foreman School up in Litchfield, and I mean, you think like the Connecticut private school, New England private school, like cliches. That's what he's got. He he legit teaches Mark Ruffalo's kid. Like,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, have you met him? He's like, yeah, he visits during Parents Weekend, and you're like,
crazy.
Of course he would. And you're like, and I'm like, what's he like? He's like, he's a nice guy. We talked about like the Grateful Dead or something. I was like, yeah, sounds about right, and stuff like that. Like, do you remember? See, you're old enough to remember this. I actually tried making this reference recently, and the person I was talking to was too young. But remember, like the CK1 ads in the '90s? I think it was underwear, or it might have been cologne or something. They were like black and white.
Okay.
Yeah, like the guy who came up with that campaign, like his kids go to my buddy's, this school too. So, so it's like, so there's like the Swiss ambassador's kid, and then Mark Ruffalo's kid, and then like, people who've worked on like really pop culture important like campaigns and stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. Like,
you just feel so much pressure just to never have a bad day though, right?
Yeah. I mean,
nail it,
Yeah, definitely. And like, his field trips are like Cuba.
Yeah.
And I think before COVID, he was going to take them somewhere like really cool. And I was just like, shut up. I get to go across town if I'm lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to a different Dunkin' Donuts. It's great.
Right. I'll tell you, man. I don't know what. I imagine you guys are probably in person, but like hybrid, or what are you guys doing over there?
So we're like a mixture. So we're because we have a lot of kids who are remote who are in China, or like elsewhere in the world, but a lot of the students are in China. And so we do like our classes for them in the morning. Then we do like a hybrid concurrent class with like the remote and physical students together in like a room with, I call it Zoom in a room.
Yeah.
And then we do then we do like the individual on-campus students after that. So it works. It's weird, but once you get used to it, you're like, it's okay.
But the kids in China, aren't they? Isn't it like daytime right now there, and it's nighttime here?
Yeah. So usually it's okay. Well, they are on teenager schedule, so like 9 o'clock is when they're like, all right, let's get going. But like some of them, like our classes that are like later, in the morning, it gets kind of late for them. But I don't know.
Wow, yeah.
That's weird. When I was a teenager, I was up till like 1 or 2, like it was nothing. So.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Like, first off, your knuckle cracking was very loud, and I'm glad that I think I got it on the show. But yeah, that's because isn't it like the next day when you like? No, right? No, it's just later that day. It would be the next day right now for them, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be ugly American, but I think so. Yeah,
I know.
Or stupid.
Well, the world revolves around me.
Right.
No,
other days.
I know. Like, I'm thinking more so the movie JFK, where like Donald Sutherland's character was in Australia, and he was like, the newspaper was marked that, blah blah. Anyway,
right.
Go watch that movie. I'm just saying, like, it's technically 12 hours ahead,
right?
Give or take. So like, it would be weird to be like, oh, I would just be making the see in the future comments all the time.
Yeah.
Oh man, in the past,
especially,
it's still Monday here.
Yeah. You've got to go back to the future, Mr. Tree.
Right. Like, Marty.
I am like super generous with late work though, because like, I mean, if anyone gets confused over the date, I don't blame you. Let's is it due today, tomorrow? Yes, yeah.
I'm a little bitchy right now because we just started a new marking period, and I got kids handing in stuff from like 2 marking periods ago. And instead of being like nice and like normally I'd be like, oh, Joey, like try to do stuff that's dated between this and that. Now I'm like, this is handed in late, no grade. Bye. I'm just like brutal. You can tell it's the 3rd marking period, but
right.
Yeah, you're missing quite some fun because it's been a while since you left the district, and I it's been interesting to say the least. We'll leave it at I'm just glad I'm techie, because if you are not, you are probably dealing with some serious stomach ulcers right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nervous breakdowns and stuff like that. But okay, enough about school. The first time I met you, I couldn't wait. I was like, what am I, because I try to think about like, the outline of the show and stuff, especially with like specific guests and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I gotta talk about the first time I met Nate. So for anyone who doesn't know, I met Nate. I think officially I met you at a New Haven Improvisers Collective meeting. Right. And I had just moved to town. I had just got out of college. I just wanted to meet musicians. And one of the only organizations I found was this group of numbskulls that got together once a month and played free jazz. I say that lovingly because I still love these guys. Right. And led by Bob Gorey. Bob Gorey, very much astute to like Butch Morris's style of conducting and and a lot of Anthony Braxton stuff going on, and Ornette Coleman and Cecil Taylor. It really cool, and it was fun that like the first organization I joined post college was like so forward thinking. I look back on it fondly, but the clientele we're talking about. These are guys who can't go 2 minutes without joking around. But I walk in and there's like a bunch of guitarists. I think Pete Riccio was probably playing drums. and you were playing a boombox set to static.
Yeah.
And you were, and I remember like, okay, is this guy serious, or is this guy like, is this like before trolling was like really a word, right? You know, so
right.
like nowadays I'd be like, oh, he's trolling everybody, right? You were legit playing the boombox, this Sony boombox as an instrument, like John Cage Imaginary Landscape style, and I was just like, I want to know who this guy is.
For sure.
This is the guy that when you didn't bring an instrument, so here we go. You guys ever check out Cage? Check this out.
Yeah.
But no,
I would say like
it was
maybe
cool.
50% trolling, but like 50% serious music. You know, give me both, right?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I still appreciated it then, and I appreciate it now. That it was definitely you know, it was eye opening, and that's where our friendship started. So it was just like, oh, this will be interesting. And but no, and then I found that you played the coolest of instruments, the euphonium. So
yes,
we can talk about that, because I only know one other person that plays that, and I'm sure you all know each other.
All three of us, yeah.
Right, yeah. But you're also a pianist, and you're also a composer. You've been up to a lot during COVID, because I keep seeing you post all these new tracks and stuff. So what's going on? Tell us about it. Tell me about it.
Well, I'm stuck in this apartment. I don't know. Like it's been a good chance to like kind of, I'm interested in like electronic music and producing, obviously, and COVID has been terrible, but like one of the benefits has been more time inside to work on stuff like that, right?
Yep.
You and I like gig together a bit, and I used to do that, and like not so much of that going on right now. So it's been more time to work on this electronic stuff. So I've been kind of like just moving more of my effort and time in that direction, kind of like, kind of get into those projects I've been wanting to do forever, and like really kind of trying to bang those out. So I've been trying to just kind of do more with, I think, I kind of like what you described the first time we like met each other was like weird improv stuff, but also combined with like electronic music. And also like sometimes still like a little melodic and still a little catchy. Like I love a good melody. I love the Monkees, the Beach Boys. And that has a place along with the John Cage radios.
Absolutely.
Free improv. So that's what I've been up to, and I've been I thought like 2020 was kind of a bust musically, but I put out like one album, one EP, and like one single with an A and a B side, so that was pretty good.
That's
and then
great.
it was I was a little surprised when I looked back on it. I was like, I did that.
Yeah. I'm not a lazy slob after all.
Right. Yeah. I think we all feel like that.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, I'm cranking out a new single every month.
That's awesome.
Dropping bombs left and right. Yeah.
So. That is that's really cool to hear. I don't know if I knew you were into the electronic stuff as much, or maybe like, I did know, because it's funny when you started posting stuff, I was like, that's cool, that's neat, but I was also like not that surprised, so maybe I did know and I just forgot or something. But I have been checking them out. Like I say on the show, like I'm trying, I've never had more time than now, so there's really no excuse to check out when somebody says, hey, I made a new track or something like that. So I do appreciate like ambient music a lot. I'm not like the biggest expert in it. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like I know what I like, and that's it. But like I couldn't tell you specifically Brian Eno records. I know like the airport one is really important. I've just always I think I've just always appreciated it, probably because it's probably the most anti-bebop music you could probably find.
Right.
Because it's just, it's like I dig Phil Nyblock. You ever check him out?
I know the name. I probably listened to some. I can't.
He's like a minimalism composer in the sense where he makes like ambient music, but with like a cello or something. And we're talking like the note won't change until like 30 minutes into the piece or something like that. Very drone. He's into drones. That's what I should have said. Very droning centric. So I've always just dug stuff that like kind of mesmerizes me. So I do appreciate some of the things you've been putting out, and you've been putting out so much that like it's kind of hard to keep track. The newest track looks like a Dragon Ball Z cover, right?
Yeah, this one is the most accessible thing I've done in a while. And,
okay, yeah. Right. So what's because I'm trying to keep. I am the mountain. My thoughts are the clouds. Okay, so that's the lo-fi one, right?
Yeah, it's like a lo-fi hip hop kind of vibe. Yeah.
Do you what are you using to produce this stuff?
I live in Ableton Live, so I use that all the
time.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've only gone as far. Like, I know how to use GarageBand. It's on my Mac. It's what I'm using for remote teaching, and I'm totally okay with leaving it there.
Yeah.
You know, anytime I've seen anything like Ableton, Logic, or Pro Tools or stuff, I'm just like, I'll stay over here. And
yeah.
You know,
I mean, you could do a lot in GarageBand, honestly. In my music tech classes, students use it, and I'm just like, you know, this will get you to like 99% of what we're going to do in this class. You know, it's good.
Yeah.
You know, people hate on it, but it's good.
Yeah, it was actually taught in school. Like, my music tech class was essentially GarageBand class. Okay. And yeah, maybe it was because like I was so stressed learning GarageBand like back in 2006 and 5, 4. You know, it's like once I got the handle of it, I was like, I'm gonna stay here. At least I'm good at this. So I'm always in awe of people that can do extra stuff, or not extra, but anything slightly more advanced. But yeah, like I really dug this tune. It did exactly what I think people want lo-fi to do. It just gives you that chilled vibe. Like, man, like lo-fi is where jazz musicians go to make money, because like normies love lo-fi. The anime girl studying with the lo-fi in the background. Like that's probably what most Gen Z kids think jazz is. They probably think that when they're listening to modern jazz, like that's what it sounds like.
Right.
And it's so funny how so many of us are cool with it, because it's I don't know what is it. What do you think is about lo-fi that makes it so enjoyed on a mass scale? Do you ever think about it? Like, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. That's a great question. I think, I think like there's an emphasis on, like melody, like for me, it always comes back to melody and like just having like a catch, like there's a hook, there's always a melodic hook. And I think like you were saying, the vibe is like chill enough that you can just put it on and leave it in the background while you do like almost anything.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know, fist pumping techno or EDM or something like that, which is, fine.
Sure.
But maybe isn't like everyone's kind of easy listening or chilling out listening choice,
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's so weird because as a genre, I feel like its closest neighbor is whatever they play at like Old Navy, Abercrombie and Fitch, and all those clothing stores where there's music playing while you shop, but you're not paying attention to it. It's almost they must be next door neighbors. They definitely live on the same cul-de-sac. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's funny because like jazz musicians will make a lo-fi beat and then play like Ornithology on top of it,
right.
and think they're the coolest ever. I'm just as guilty. So but
yeah, no, you got to dial it back a little bit, but
yeah, it really is a weird phenomenon. The whole genre is in that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, but it's just.
Yeah, well, it's crazy to me. Like, you mentioned Gen Z. Like, Gen Z is like, I love the sound of cassettes. I'm like,
yeah,
it's so crazy to me. And like, my single before the lo-fi one, I'm trying to like look for one of the cassettes now. I don't have it handy, but like, it's just, I mean, it sounds great. I played it on my little tape player I got for $20, and like the magic is still there. But it's such a funny thing. It's like an artifact. It's an audio artifact and an undesirable one, we thought for a long time, from an era they weren't even alive for.
Right.
To them, it's like the, magic sauce being sprinkled over the track. And it does sound cool. Maybe there's something to that, I think.
Yeah. The scratch. Yeah. There's something about that scratch that I don't know. It puts people to sleep, I guess, or like it relaxes people in a way. It's funny. Definitely around this time of year, if we were, things were normal, I would be teaching, I do a whole unit on the 80s, and I spend like 2 days on record players, tape players, and CD players.
Yeah.
And you should see I've got like, your classic clear blank tape, and I like, I let them pass around, real high tech stuff. And man, it takes it takes legit the whole class for them to get through it, because I've got kids that will just stare at it. they'll just, they'll just hold it between their fingers and just like look at how the tape is wound on the spool, and they're like, the tape goes from one side to the other, huh? That's like, it's so weird, man. And it's kind of fun to watch them just take it in. And it's like, that's, and then I always like crack jokes. I'm like, in a mixtape used to be when you recorded I actually, funny enough, I had my dad's boombox that he kept in the garage when I was a kid. I have it in school. And what I do is I record, I go to like, local radio stations, and I'll record songs off the radio onto the tape and then play it for them. Anyone between the ages of like 29 and 45 know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's, I'm like, this is what a mixtape is, or like, this is what I did when I was your age. And they're just like, whoa, and I don't know what it is, man, but it's delightful to watch.
That's awesome.
But, so I was resistant when tapes were like grudgingly making a comeback, but now it's like, it is what it is, But it's funny, like some artists were trying to put them out, and it's like, who are you trying to impress?
I know, it's cool. It's like, I mean, it's fascinating to me, and it's I think a lot of like more fringier musicians, like tapes is like a really big part of the scene. And it's just like fascinating to me, and they're adorable and they feel good. There's something nice and tactile when you're holding the case, and
they always felt good in your hand. So another track that you sent me, let's see, because just to set the record straight, we tried to make sure I heard some of your newest material just so I knew what you were working on recently. But
right, awesome.
You had sent me a new A Night, and I really dug. Is the title track? Hold on, let me open it back up again. The first track on that was really cool, and that was just done on synths, right? Oh, so the first track is called "Don't Tell Me." Through the Stars Still Stay Out, or is that the second track?
That's the first one. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. So that one was cool. It had like this poppy piano kind of vibe going on.
Yeah. I have a friend up here who makes music too, and he listens to all my stuff, and he was like, did you start this song with a major triad? Because I've been doing a lot of like atonal stuff and weird stuff. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm selling out, baby.
Yeah, right.
Major triads from now on. Yeah. So I totally forgot what your question was.
No, I just brought up how it started, and then you were like, and then you were the one that started attacking yourself.
So it starts out like a chill, descending major. I think it's like an E flat major arpeggio, and that track is actually, like, to tie it back to the Improvisers Collective. That track was pretty much like improvised, and with just that piano sound you heard in the beginning, and I set the metronome going and I improvised it almost the way through, and then I went back and I like tweaked it a little bit and added structure, and then I added like other sounds to it to give it some like changes in there. So there's actually a lot of like it's layered, like it's pretty dense sound, but there's the accordion shows up in there, the euphonium shows up in there, the piano sneaks in there too. So
cool. Now, let me ask you, like, what is your approach to making stuff like this? Like, what are you just tinkering and then editing later, and like almost like the Miles Bitches Brew effect, where it's like, I'm just gonna record and then go back and make a song out of it, or what's your process? Like, you plan stuff out or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's for this kind of stuff, I would say it's definitely like a tinker, improvise, and then edit approach. I read an interview with I think it was like Quincy Jones or somebody, and he said the best advice he got was that creating and editing are like two different steps and should happen like not at the same time. And when you try to do them at the same time, that's when you get writer's block, basically. You
start erasing everything you write.
Right. Yeah. And then you just like every single note, you're just like, is this good? Is this good? And you can't think like that, Yeah. So what I try to do is I just try to like sit down and like crank it out, and I try to like ignore the inner critic, and just get down as much as I can in like half-hour increments, and then I'll go back like a day later and kind of like try to put everything together and listen for like the like the catchiest parts, the strongest themes, the most interesting parts, and then expand it from there.
Oh, that's cool. How long
Yeah.
how long does a track normally take for you, or is it just different every time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say if it's more than a week, I'm probably overthinking it. I'd say about a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the one you just mentioned, the ambient one, though the stars still stay out. That was like 2 or 3 days because I was trying to get it out for Bandcamp Friday.
Yeah.
And nothing inspires like a deadline.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah.
yeah, I cranked that out pretty quick. Yeah, but I try to like, just generally like generate sounds for 1 or 2 days, and then the rest of the week try to like put it together into something coherent, and then get it as good as I can, and then move on to the next one.
It's funny, I totally agree with you on basically if the tune's not done within a week, I need to put it away. So like when I'm writing, it's very, very much the same. And it's funny now, let's see, like I've been quote unquote composing for like 11 years, 11, 12 years, right? And I remember slaving over some of my earliest tunes, really like banging my head, burning the midnight oil because it's like, oh, I gotta find that idea. I gotta figure out how this phrase ends and whatnot. And it's funny that in the composition, as you get experience as a composer, you start to realize your processes, and it's like same. It's like if the tune's not, if I start the tune on Monday, and if the tune is not, and usually I'll quasi outline it so I have something to work with. But like, but if I'm like still tinkering with what I was tinkering with on Monday, on like Wednesday, Thursday, by Friday, it's usually like, all right, I'm going to put this away for a little while and come back to it. And it's funny, there was a whole slew of compositions I had wrote in like 2011, 2013, and they were all unfinished. And then literally like just sitting down one day, maybe in 2015 or 16, I just finished them. And it was weird. It was like, I picked it up, I played it on the piano, and I was like, oh, no, this is how it ends. Boom, done. And it's like, that comes from the the analyzing while you're creating. And and I'm glad you brought that up because the pianist, Kenny Werner, he has that book, Effortless Mastery, which I need to like revisit. It's been a decade at least, but I do remember him talking about the fact that like you need to train yourself not to judge what you're playing while you're playing it, because that's when you start stumbling. And because exactly, like the composer's version is the writer's block. Like once you start judging the immediate thing, then it's gone, and then you realize that idea that you were so excited about 2 minutes ago, you've scrapped the whole thing because you've just decided that it's not worthy,
Yeah.
And it's so true that you need to like kind of let it happen, then go back and fix it. And I think like some of our favorite composers all did that. It's funny when I took when I was in my master's program, we had to analyze a lot of Beethoven. And it was really cool to find out that like, I guess in like the original manuscripts, it's just like tons of crossing out, erasing, changing. Like composing was grueling for him. Like deafness aside, it had nothing to do with deafness. It was just it had to do with the fact that like Beethoven was like a genius, but he was still a human, as opposed to his colleague Mozart, who was just like la 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 la, and everything just came out right. It was so like I remember being like, well, if he fucking struggled, I need to like cool it when I'm struggling, because
it's totally okay.
You got to put perspective on it.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the lecture where it's like the there's like, it shows Beethoven's like different iterations of the da 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 theme, and it's like 19 different versions, and he scratches them all out like super violently. He wrote in German, he was like, this one's trash. I mean, he didn't actually write that, but like he was clearly just like violently scribbling out and being like, this one stinks, this one stinks. And just like that little theme going through like 20 different iterations to get to that like iconic little theme. It's amazing.
Is that one of those Leonard Bernstein Lectures. I feel like because that's like kind of ringing a bell. Those are also something I need to take advantage of, being stuck inside for COVID and watch I remember watching. I think it was on Copeland, and yes, it was the last one I watched. Man, this is years ago now, but he was explaining Copeland's like American, this is why Copeland's music sounds like American, and it was one of those lectures that, he did, I guess he did a lot of them. Many were filmed, and it's great because they take legit cigarette breaks. And he's got like a little chamber group off to the side because they only pan to them when he needs them to play. And I remember they played The Unanswered Question, and what's the Central Park one? Or is that Ives? Oh shit. Am I confusing Copeland and Ives? Maybe it was 20th Century Music, because I feel like there was Ives and Copeland. Oh man. Well, now I got to go back and watch because it's been so long, but I do remember like loving it because he was so good at explaining how human some of these composers were, because we just think they're old, these, burrowed guys with wigs and shit, and you don't realize how long things take. I love hearing about, how one of my favorite classical tidbits is Debussy was a slow worker. And Debussy's one of my favorite composers. Yeah. And it's like, that's really enjoyable to know. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
I'm listening to Debussy and I'm like, what a fucking genius.
Right.
But knowing that it took him like 2 years to write La Mer, which is not a symphony, like lengthwise, and you're just like 20 minutes worth of music, and you're just like, all right, man. That makes me feel kind of better about things.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Why the ambient stuff? What drives you to compose that kind of thing?
That's a great question. I don't know. I don't know if it's any one thing. I think it's like I think the possibility of finding different sounds, and I think like notice. Let me try to say that a little more succinctly. I think it's I think like the drone ambient stuff kind of lends itself to finding new textures, new timbres that like we might like overlook kind of, if you take like one sound, you time stretch it, all these other weird little audio artifacts are going to pop up in there that didn't exist before. So that really appeals to me. And just, I think it makes you like listen a little differently. Like it's the opposite of like lo-fi hip hop. It's not trying to be catchy.
Yeah.
It's not trying to have a groove that you can like nod to. It's intent, and what's appealing might actually be like a little hidden to you. It might take a little bit of like work to figure out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that. And I've just always been into like kind of like found sounds. And when I say always, I mean like when I was in the crib, like my mom said I would wake up but not cry. I would just like chill out and like listen to the environment, like a little aspiring John Cage. And like I love taking found sounds from like the environment and like putting them together into like kind of a long, slow moving track. It's like it's really I don't know, interesting to me. It's interesting to make. Hopefully it's interesting to listen to.
I mean, I've known you. We've made jokes about it, but do you actually enjoy music concrete then, or music?
Yeah. I don't listen to it like when I'm at the gym.
Yeah, sure. Oh, where's that?
But yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of Per Schaefer might be his name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I had my like early electronic CD just over here the other day.
Oh, nice.
And Otto Lunig and Vladimir Szulczewski, all those guys. Early, electronic composers. Yeah. What are some of your favorites then? Since we're on the topic, like what do you dig?
Yeah. I mean,
for that
you mentioned like Brian Eno before. I think Brian Eno is great. I like a lot of what he does. My favorite right now is there's a French composer, Eliane Radig, I think the name is pronounced badly. My French is terrible. And she does these like slow moving works, mostly for electronics that, I don't know if there's one that's shorter than like 8 minutes. They're usually like a half hour or like an hour or so. And they're gorgeous. And but they move so slowly. You listen to it and you notice something, you're like, oh, that's cool. Then you do whatever you're doing. And then like next time you notice you're in a completely different sonic landscape, but you don't know how it's changed. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I like that. And, we were talking about like, Plaid. We both, you like Plaid, right? Didn't you send some of that music to me?
Yeah. I discovered Plaid, um, in the same, I think I was looking for something, if you go on Spotify, there's a lot of pre-con playlists that Spotify makes, geared towards meditation, or I was looking for meditative background stuff.
Okay.
And I think Plaid was on one of these playlists that I tried, and it's gonna try. I don't remember. It's something like that. But I ended up really being into that track, and I was like, never mind. I went back to it, and from there, that's when I discovered Sun Tapes as well, which is
right.
I think I sent you him. Really, yeah. Like that's, for now that will be the limit of my ambient like listening, because I just, there's just too much, to be honest with you. There's just too much. Yeah. And for a long time, I was really into a group called Emeralds. You ever hear of them?
No.
Oh yeah, they're not a band anymore. They broke up like a few years ago, but they were pretty cool. I'm sure their stuff is still online. And then in terms of found stuff, you ever listen to the Books?
Yeah.
I like them. It's been a while, but I remember really, and again, I don't know how I discovered them. It had to be by chance, where I was probably in a record shop and one of their songs was playing, and I was like, hey, what is this? And then I just bought it. But that, I love how they mash up different stuff. That, I don't know if that's found source stuff. I don't know what that style is called, but I always thought that stuff was super cool. Cage did it. What was it? Oh shit. All I know is that Frank Zappa made his own version called Lumpy Gravy. Do you know that record?
I know that record. I don't know the Cage connection there.
Okay, so Lumpy Gravy is like all this found sound stuff and splicing tape together.
Yeah.
And it's based on a Cage piece. I want to say it's called the Roratorio, or
okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
Or Fontana Mix or something.
Okay,
like that.
Fontana Mix.
Yeah, stuff like that. And
I never knew. Okay.
Oh yeah. And man. But the Books reminded me of like a modern version of that stuff. And now I got to go back and listen to them. I'm definitely going to cue that stuff up after this. But it's cool. There's something about ambient music, especially, that is really, I think you said right. It's a different way of listening, and that's why I like it. A good buddy of mine, who's also a trumpet player, like sometimes, this was like maybe a year or two ago, he was like, man, it's like, I just need a break from like what we normally listen to, like Miles, Freddie, Woody Shaw, all this stuff. And he's like, give me something to listen to. And I was like, go listen to classical music or the Ramones. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like there's just so much out there that's not jazz that you can get into. And it's also really fun to find out when your jazz heroes and are into other stuff, because you're like, oh, they don't just always listen to Charlie Parker.
Right.
And for that, I discovered Shigeto through Dave Douglas. Do you ever check out Shigeto?
No. I know Dave Douglas through you, but
okay. Well, I'm gonna I'm writing it down so I don't forget. I'll send you some Shigeto stuff. Right super cool. Yeah, definitely on the ambient side, kind of like live ambient, I want to say, because he uses like the laptop in the I don't know, the touchpad that you could
like a launch pad or a push or something.
Yeah. And man, super cool stuff. Hip hoppy and whatnot, but a real ambient effect. A lot of like atmospheric stuff going on. It's cool, and it's so refreshing to just listen to that kind of stuff. And so to bring it, to butter you up, that's why it's very fun to see your posts, to listen to something new, because I know what you're talking about with 2020. A lot of people took advantage of the composing time, and it's a theme on the show now. I think 2021 there's gonna be a lot of releases. I think a lot of people are gonna start, because everyone learned how to produce now.
Right.
I mean, I've got my microphone over here, and everyone bought from Sweetwater the same gear because it was back ordered for weeks.
Yeah.
But what other projects, what other goals do you have in the mix coming up, composing wise?
I'm trying to actually kind of like dial it back and focus on like one project and sort of like the Nate Trier experience, for lack of a better name. I don't think that's been used before. It's not copyrighted or anything. Yeah, just to kind of like keep making this. I'm always trying to find the line between too weird and like not like too weird, but let's say like weird and accessible. So I'm trying. I feel like I'm hitting my stride this year with making music that like has a nice melody you can grab onto, but like the sounds are going to be kind of interesting and a little unexpected also. And I think that's kind of the music that I like.
That's
really
me.
Yeah,
that texts me out saying Shigeto.
Okay.
Continue.
What's this say here? Nate, you're rambling.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, everyone knows I hold up cards.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry. That's twice now I've interviewed.
No, I'm so easily distracted. So going forward, so I'm gonna just try to keep making music that has like a good melody and is catchy, but at the same time you're kind of like, oh, because there's gonna be some kind of like weird sounds going on in the background and some unexpected, timbres and stuff like that.
That's awesome. Any with live, like I feel like you any day now you're gonna announce this like piece with pre-recorded sounds and live group or like a live band of some kind. You're gonna try anything like that?
Yeah, what I want to do is when we can start gigging again, whenever that is.
Yeah,
I definitely I'm kind of scheming now to like get going with like my my piano and my laptop, and not do like just a karaoke thing, but kind of have some like interactive electronics going, which I like to experiment with. I don't know much about, but I want to learn more about it, and do that somewhere to some kind of receptive audiences.
Yeah. First off, awesome. Second off, I have no doubt that you'll be able to. We're all going to have an opportunity to play these projects because everyone is just dying to perform and listen. It's funny. I actually still have one gig. I still have one weekly gig. Yeah, my brunch gig surprisingly has not been canceled. Okay. They the way the bar is set up, I was already distanced before, they were pushing me farther back to the kitchen, and they've kept me there. And it's so funny because now it's normally a duo gig. Now it's me with my Bluetooth speaker, and I'm playing like Abersols basically.
Yeah.
And I'm playing my horn. And man, I mean, at first it was embarrassing. It took a minute. I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this, And then I was like, it's giving me something to focus on every week, But man, I've never gotten tipped so much in my life. I'm dead. Really? I know that's like such a fucking jazz joke, right? Like,
right.
But seriously, I've had people walk up to me and go, "It sounds like you're supposed to be with a band," but it's really nice to see this. And I was just like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's almost made better audience members out of patrons, and it's made me a more thankful musician. It's like it's just the acknowledgement, man, is like, it's so welcomed. So I think that when things get back to normal, like we're gonna have audiences for everything.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's the pandemic has made us appreciate what, once we're done kind of like reeling from the changes, it makes us appreciate what we don't have now that we had before.
Yeah.
Like my students were like so thrilled to come back to class. And like, I have pretty good students, but they're just like rehearsal, they're just like, I have to play music with other people. And like, they were so thrilled to do that,
Yeah.
And the same thing for like gigs. Like, I'm sure people are just like, oh, this music that I used to think is like, oh, it's just in the background is like, wow, live music is great,
Yeah.
And they really missed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Underground has been doing a monthly Zoom, series, like the band's live, and we, no audience, we broadcast it out and everything.
Right.
And man, like the first time we did it was in July, and there was like 20 listeners, right? 20 viewers, The last one we did in December, I'm not even bullshit, there was like 700 people watching it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, holy shit. And it's because, and you saw every month there was more and more people tuning in or watching later because they could, they could watch it at their leisure. It was like every month there was more and more. And it's like, it goes to show that people missing it. I can't tell you how many times I've said, like, I just want to have like a whiskey on the rocks at the bar counter, and I just want to sit there. I want to talk to the bartender. I want to talk to the strangers down the counter. Man, that's what I miss. I miss that in the movies and gigs.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But yeah, it's like the era of people lying to your face and being like, yeah, I'll try to make it, and then they never do. I think for a while, I think that's going to change. I feel like we'll go back to being shitheads to each other, but I think there's going to be this honeymoon period where we're checking each other's music out, and it's going to be nice. Like 2022 is going to be brotherly love, man. You know?
Yeah.
So,
all those Facebook interested responses.
I know.
It's going to be amazing.
I know. They should just get rid of it. It should just be like, are you going or you're not?
Really?
You know? But yeah, man, keep doing what you're doing. I am certainly appreciating it. And what's nice about this podcast is I'm able to catch up. Like, I haven't seen you in forever. I haven't seen a lot of my guests. I haven't seen in forever because of not only life, but the pandemic. So seeing your tracks being posted, it's like, one, it lets me know you're alive. It's like one less person to worry about. There we go. No, it's nice to see that you're using this time creatively. So keep doing it. Keep sending it my way because I am enjoying it. And and thanks for being on the show, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much. It's great to hear. It's great to talk to you again.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So where can everyone find you before you go? Where can everyone find you on the internet?
You can find me at Nate Trier, TRIER.com, or at Instagram.com/Nate.TRIER.
All right.
There's hilarious new content every day.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just got it all.
It's gold.
Pure gold. All right, man. Good to have you on the show. Good to talk to you. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming in.
All right. Thanks, man. Good being here.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that interview with Nate. Nate's a funny guy. Thanks for being a good sport, Nate. I feel like, great sense of humor, but a lot of times I think he's also putting up with my antics. So, no. It's always a pleasure to talk to Nate. And seriously, check out the stuff he's putting out. It is really hip, especially that ambient stuff that we were mentioning and so on and so forth. If you're a fan of ambient music, he would be the guy I would point you to for Connecticut, local musician stuff. So thanks again, Nate. I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have him on the show, again soon, man. I love the possibility of return guests. And speaking of guests, my next guest is drummer Adam Szulczewski. I met Adam through the basically the Western Connecticut State University music group, music scene. Basically, if you go back and listen to the episode with Fernanda, we talk about like that group of musicians, and basically I met Adam via the same way. He's worked in my band several times, Acoustic Electric, and he has always been a great musician to hang with, work with. He's just a really sincere, sweet guy, excellent drummer, and I'm glad that we could have him on the show. So check out my interview with Adam Szulczewski.
Joining me now on Mr. Millennial's Revenge via Zoom is drummer Adam Szulczewski. And we were just saying before we started recording that I am the only one, I want to go on record as the only one who's attempted to actually learn how to say your name. So, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Good. I just got out of a marathon of parent-teacher conferences because if anyone is unfamiliar, I'm a school teacher by day, so that was pretty grueling. It's just a long process, and doing it virtually doesn't make it easier. So that's where I'm at. Oh, I didn't hear you. What?
Did you get any kids in trouble?
No, it's a lot of like, you try to put a positive spin on it because you always want to be encouraging, and like, you don't really get like a really angry parent like you would think. So it's not as I don't know. It's not like you would think in the movies or something like that, or like something you see on The Simpsons. It's like everyone tries to be like really nice about it because you want the kid to do well, and hopefully, the message gets across. But we'll see. Still got half a year to go.
I remember being a kid, and whenever my parents went to parent-teacher conferences, me being just absolutely terrified of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And what my parents were going to come home and tell me, like we are going to revamp your whole life.
Like that, huh? Okay.
Luckily, that never really happened to that magnitude. But
sure. Your dad is a school music teacher, right?
Yes, my dad has been teaching elementary music for 33 years now.
That's crazy. So you've kind of, it's weird, I think, when you're the child of a teacher. I don't know why I find it so weird, but it's like, it really is weird. And there's a couple examples I have. One is a good friend of mine growing up, her dad was like our high school science teacher, but like she was really smart. So she wasn't like, in any of his classes. He taught biology and she did like chemistry or something. But I do remember my freshman year social studies teacher, her son was a dick. and he was like maybe a couple of years older than me. And I remember him like bullying kids in the hallway, and someone like bringing it up to her in class, and she was like so mad that you talked bad about her kid. And I was just like, oh man, this guy's got like the inside scoop.
Oh man, yeah. My dad is super close to retiring. He's going to retire in maybe like 3 or 4 years. He's been in Cheshire, teaching in Cheshire for the past like maybe like 10 or 12 years. But
yeah, he teaches at my old elementary school, right?
Yeah, he teaches at Doolittle and Norton
Elementary. Okay.
So he's been doing that for a while, but before that he was at Highland in Cheshire.
Okay.
Teaching general music.
He decided to leave all the snooty kids behind and teach like actual real people.
Yeah, I mean he's a band teacher now. What he really wanted to do from the beginning was teach band because he's a saxophone, flute, clarinet. He's a woodwind player at heart. So that's always been the goal, was to be a band teacher. But the right gig never really came along, and then I came and my sister came, and
man after my own heart. So first off, all of my I'm still pretty close with my high school crew, and they all went to Highland School. I was the only one that went to Doolittle, so they always give me shit. But the real shit is they suck. Anyway, inside joke. But it's funny that you say that because I wanted to be a band teacher, and I had the expectations of being a band teacher. And then when I student taught, my elementary placement was a band and strings program. And I fell in love with teaching strings because it was so different. It was such a breath of fresh air. I was so invested in it that I bought a violin and a viola. I was ready to become a strings teacher. That was then the summer of 2008 happened. I could barely get a job. I didn't end up getting a job until November of 2008 because somebody had quit, and it was general music. And to this day, I've never taught in school, obviously strings ever again, but I've never been a band teacher. But I think that's like a blessing in disguise because when I quit my lessons job of 15 years, it was mostly due to the fact that I just couldn't teach the same thing again over and over and over again. It's just like anyone who's an elementary band teacher is a fucking saint to me because kids struggle because they're kids and they've never played instruments before. So it's like you can't be mad at them for the terrible sounds you might hear come out of the horn, but it does hurt your ears after a while. And I physically couldn't take it anymore. I don't know how your dad's been able to do it, or anyone we know. as a band teacher?
To speak to that a little bit, I remember being in high school and just being obsessed with music and finding new music. And
sure.
And when I was excited about finding a new piece of music, I would try to show my dad in the car, going somewhere.
Yeah.
And we were in the car a lot. I remember in high school, and I would, find this new song or something by this band. And I respected his opinion musically, sure. So I would show him a piece of music, and I would say, like, Dad, you're never gonna believe what this is, like, what this sounds like. And he would say to me, no, you don't understand. I don't want to listen to anything. I want complete silence.
Right now. Yeah.
I had to listen to some crazy shit all day. Yeah. So we're going to listen to nothing.
Right.
And then I remember thinking to myself in high school, like, damn, is this what music is going to become for me if I decide to go into teaching? And when I was being that age, I've been being so obsessed and like just so hungry. I was so turned off at the idea of like going to school for music ed, like sort of because of that, because of, I never wanted it to become that kind of thing where I don't ever want to listen. I don't want to be so disgusted at listening to music. But the more that, I got to see him in that role, the more that like, it wasn't so much, that wasn't an all the time kind of thing. It was, there were good days and bad days, and he still plays gigs and does his thing, but, I just, seeing that really was an intense moment, and the deciding thing for me when I was thinking about going to school for music and then deciding eventually, like, I gotta just play. I want to just, I'm into music. I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, this is where I am right now. I can't even think about teaching just because of that experience,
Yeah. I mean, I certainly relate, and it's funny because I don't think I've ever asked you why you never became a music teacher. Now I know. I know exactly what your dad's, where your dad's come from. It's like, that's why I love podcasts, and that's why I love my Audible account, because a lot of times when I leave school, it's like, no, I put on NPR. I just need to hear, like, I want to listen to something, but it's got to be monotonous and soothing and, very, very steady so that I don't, so that my ears can kind of reset. The thing is about teaching general music is throughout the day, you're teaching different things. So I think that helps with that a little bit, because you have recorders for 45 minutes and then you might be doing drumming the next 45 minutes, so at least there's like some change to it. It's like period after class of like kind of the same thing. That's like too much, so I totally get it.
And I will recognize, like, me saying that is a little bit, was naive of me to say, because for me to make a generalization that he, that's the norm of him getting in the car and be like, we can't listen to a single thing. That wasn't every day. It wasn't every certain time that I went to music, but it was a powerful moment for sure. And that's also not to say that when I did come into the experience where I was teaching kids music, as musicians we usually do.
Yep, of course.
I really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I found I found that I was pretty good at certain things and not good at other things about it too. So it's not to say I'm sure looking back now, I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, I kind of wish I did it, because I would have had a pretty solid career. But
well, yeah, I mean, if the pandemic has taught me one thing, it's that I'm really glad that I went back after and got the ed degree, because all that bullshit aside. But anyway, what's been going on? Like, I did the Most put out a record during COVID, or was it after? I can't remember, dude. The pandemic feels like the shortest and at the same time the longest stretch of time of my life. And I'm glad, and I'm kind of glad that some people kind of agree with that when I bring that up. Like, like people will talk about shit and I'm like, oh, well, you know, what was that? Like 2 weeks ago? It was like, no, last summer. And you're like, last summer. But it also feels like, you know, it's just dragging on. So the Most had put out a record, right?
Yeah, we did. So this record we came out with in October of 2020. It's called Of What We Have. In that album was recorded live in 2019, the day after we got back from a 2-week tour.
Okay.
It was recorded in a friend of ours' living room. We had a house in Glastonbury, and we sort of had it as like the extra day of tour. It was a part of the tour. We treated it as a part of the tour. So like we played last show in Philadelphia, and then the very next day went into the studio and just tracked the whole album, or at least the bare bones, that skeleton rhythm section, live. And then everything else is layered on top. And pretty much what you hear of that bare bone of that rhythm section is pretty much the live take. There are a few edit points, but that's pretty much it. And ironically, it kind of slaps way harder than anything else we've ever put out. Just because, I mean, we hammered those songs for years. Some of those songs we've been playing live for like 3 years on the road. And now is the first time that it's come to studio fruition. So it feels really good. It feels really good to have those out into the world finally, because they're
I bet.
You know, they're really sick.
I need to go back and listen to them. To be fair, so you said October. I feel like that's splitting the difference, because I thought originally it was the summer.
Time doesn't matter.
Right.
You know, time is all.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's no time. Like, time has gotten so fucked up, for lack of a better word.
No, you're right. You're right.
Throughout this whole thing, like starting in March until now, if like you were saying, it feels like 6 months and 4 years at the same time.
Yeah, you know, and I always remind myself and anyone who will listen that like we're all going through like trauma. So I'm very forgiving when I'm like, hey, you know, like I'll text a friend some track, and then like a couple of days later I'm like, hey, what'd you think of X, Y, and Z? And they're like, I'll check it out now, you know. Normally I'd get a chip on my shoulder over that and be like, come on, you didn't have 3 minutes to listen to something. But now I'm like, no, man, I get it. Your mind is so scattered. To that regard, though, I definitely got to go back and give it another listen, because I remember checking it out when you guys first announced it and thinking that it was really hip. And I feel like before the pandemic, you guys had a show coming up, and I was finally going to be able to see you guys. But now that's like about a year ago at this point. If you think about, you know, when we're 11 months in now, so maybe maybe you guys had a show like in January or February or something, and I was like super pumped to like I marked it on the calendar or something, because I wanted to see you guys live. Like we've worked together in many different capacities, and I talked to you and Mike at the Jam and stuff. But it's like, you know, it was one of those I was like, it's 2020, man, a new year. I'm going to go see more shows. Right. And the Most was one of those bands, and then womp womp. So I need to check that out. And on top of that, your other band, Mega, right? You guys just recorded something. Was it a full length or an EP? What do you got going on with that?
It's an EP. Throughout the pandemic, we have been seeing each other. We've been able to, because I'm roommates with Mike and Gianni, so
sure,
we know where each other is. We feel safe being around each other. Keenan is in that band, and he pretty much stays within his core group. So and we added Tom Keen on guitar.
Oh, nice.
So and we've all been really careful who we see, and we wore masks when we were rehearsing and stuff like that. But we've been rehearsing throughout the whole pandemic in 2020, at least like every week on our music, and we have like a lot of original music we've been sorting through and workshopping, and we got 4 songs that felt really solid.
Yeah.
And we went to a studio in Springfield, Massachusetts called Ghost Hit Recording. It is a repurposed church. This guy bought an entire church and repurposed it into an amazing recording studio, tracked by Paulie Philippone, who plays in West End Blend.
Right.
Keyboard player.
Yep.
And yeah, we just went in and hit these 4 songs. They sound amazing. Sounds so good. The material is just so sick, and I'm really excited about that. But it's different than anything else that I'm used to honing in on, just because there's a huge improvisational element to the band, right? So with the a lot of this stuff is predetermined and rehearsed in terms of every transition. There's not a lot of improvisation, and my studio background is a lot of that kind of stuff where it's not so much improvising, but really honing in and making sure that we're really rehearsed on that stuff is a lot harder.
Yeah.
When you're recording in that way.
Yeah.
So, I think we did a really good job. I think everyone sounds really good, but getting there, it took 6 months of playing every week religiously. Some weeks here and there we took off, but playing those 4 songs, making sure that we all sound really good and we all know the form really well and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was a different beast, but I'm really happy with it. So I'm pumped we still got a lot of work to do on it. Still got a lot to track with overdubs and stuff, but yeah, I'm excited about it for sure. I'm just glad that we were able to keep playing throughout this whole thing, because in May I was laid off from the job I had, and I was just chilling all summer.
Yeah, every time I looked, you were in the woods somewhere, and I was and at the time I was still in my apartment, so I was God damn it, I need to get out of here.
That was the only thing that kept me sane.
Yeah.
At that, when I was not working, I would do odd jobs here and there, but yeah, me and my girlfriend Kate, we would just go away and do these trips from the weekend and just be outside and camp, and we could still kind of see people and be distanced outside because it was a little bit safer.
Yeah, the summer it was a whole new world. I remember thinking I remember thinking how cautious I was in the summer, but relatively speaking now I'm the summer was nearly how it used to be. If you think about if you look at it, everything in hindsight, especially the winter and stuff. But if it wasn't for moving to my house and having a backyard, I probably would have jumped out of the window. We were in a 1-bedroom apartment in a building, and it was scary leaving the apartment because we kept seeing all these people, all our neighbors walking around without masks on or not distancing. And we're it's not even safe to go into the hallway probably, So it was a real mental strain back in those days. But I remember seeing you every time I'd comment on your Instagram and be dude, where is this? So I could write it down and make note,
Yeah, it's been, that was I've always loved, that's a huge part of me and Kate in our relationship and with our friends too, is going outside and being out in nature and not on our goddamn phones or computers and stuff, and just being outside and hiking and being active was just huge for my mental health. For this whole thing. So it's been a little bit tougher now in the winter, but Kate just got snowshoes.
Nice.
Thinking I might buy think I might buy some snowshoes too.
There you go. Okay.
Get out there, dude. Do something.
Yeah.
Gotta do something.
Well, we take the pup, our dog, we got our dog in July, and so this is her first winter, and she's not a year old yet, and she's like a snow psycho. I'm like, man, we got to do some winter hiking because this dog will just be all about it. So, definitely feeling more, definitely feeling cooped up and feeling more inspired to like, get out there and I've talked to a few people on the show about other things that I've pursued to make up for that lack of music, that lack of performing. I just started painting. I always liked liked it when I was a kid and enjoyed art class as a kid, but liked museums, but I never thought to try it. So that's like my new thing now, and it is miraculously relaxing. And that's like my new thing. My wife just started like a home decor side hustle where she's making like crafty shit for people, wreaths mostly, for people to hang in their houses. And it's like, as long as it's constructive, I don't care what you do. That's what this time period has taught all of us. And then writing, like, I'm glad to hear you guys are putting out an EP. I'm so happy to talk to so many people and finding out that they're also writing music or starting to record it or stuff, because it's like, now's that time, man. And it's definitely a good way to keep your mental health in check, when you're thinking about composing as opposed to just fucking playing video games or some shit.
And this year particularly was, even as much of a dog shit year as 2020 was, it sort of got me to get my shit together, just with like my own thing. I sort of been conceptualizing for years on like, man, if I was to put out music under my own name.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry to interrupt you. You put out like a solo recording a while back.
I did. I've had Ableton for the majority of last year, and I spent the spring and summer learning it and writing and experimenting and trying some stuff. And I was able to come up with a track that I felt pretty great about. So I just mixed it myself in Ableton and then got a buddy of mine to master it, and that was it. I really loved doing that. That was like something that was also really helpful for me too. And I'm constantly like writing on the keyboard and guitar, because I'm also a guitar player too. For years after I left WestCon, I was playing guitar in a band in Boston for a while.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I love to compose and do that too. So I'm trying to hone in on that a lot. I'm really trying to focus on that stuff.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are using this time to do that. They're kind of like, go, okay, like this is what Adam is, or this is what Nick is, and this is what's gonna be, and that sort of thing. Like, same, man. Like I decided that like I'm really into like kind of avant-garde jazz and making weird sounds with the horn and all this experimental shit. And it's like I've always wanted to pursue it, but kind of I always said that I was too busy to like pursue it as like a way to kind of avoid having to face it. But now, because there's nothing to do, I could like focus on the approach and the concept of that thing. And like I'm starting to write compositions for like specific groups of instruments that I normally don't pursue, because now I have that time to do it. And it's like, yeah, I want this other branch of my career to exist, not to just be like this mental construct. Like I want it to be real, and yeah. What's that solo project called? I can't remember. It's on Bandcamp, right?
Yes.
I think that's where I listened to it.
it's just under my own name. It's just like my name on Bandcamp. It's just on Bandcamp. I didn't put it on Spotify.
Okay. Yeah. I'm looking.
And that's the thing. I'm not really like trying to I'm still really new to this, so I'm trying not to like toot my own horn that much about it. And plus, I've always been a kind of person that feels kind of fucking weird about that kind of egomaniac kind of shit. So I just sort of, but I do recognize that like sharing your art, sharing one's art, especially during like this, a time like this, it's just important, and people like care about it. People like really kind of show up for it when you just sort of put yourself out there. So it's been really rewarding this time around to release music, but this time under my own name.
Yeah.
And I've been so nervous about that. I've been so like, oh man, because if anyone's really critical about it, I'm gonna take it to heart that much harder, because it's just me.
Yeah.
It's just me.
Right.
But yeah, everyone who's given me feedback so far about it it's been super positive, and makes me, it's just really rewarding to make that stuff under my own name and have people dig it. So
yeah, it sounds great, man. It's called Letting Go, and it's got our buddy Mike Schmidt on saxophone, our man, Tom Kuhn. We're now sharing it, man, because he plays in my band too. Now he's playing, officially with Mega. So that's awesome, because Tom is such a fucking grooving guitar player. He's such a great guy. And
I met Tom at WestCon in like 2011, and we were placed in a combo together.
Oh, no way.
Didn't really know him much, and just vibed immediately. And then I didn't talk to him for like so long. We didn't talk for like 8 years or something. And saw each other randomly and reconnected. And he fucking rules. He's amazing. And I met him at a gig. I think his work must have been in the band, because somebody introduced us to each other. He came to like one of my gigs, like a quartet gig, and said he played guitar. And because I'm like older than a lot of you guys, it's like, there's years separating when we were at WestCon. So I had never met him, and that's just basically where it started. And he's just a phenomenal player. I got to get him on the show, because I haven't talked to him in a while too. So, but drums, programming, bass, keyboard, synths. I mean, you did this whole thing, man. This came out. Basically, I switched. I kind of like mix the most release and this release, because this is from August. So I'm not completely off when I say, oh yeah, you put something out in August. I dig this track. I think this is really cool, and I'm digging like people I know putting out like quote unquote solo projects. Like I feel like when most people think of solo projects, they think of like, a guy on a guitar singing like, kind of folky stuff. But it's almost like in the jazz world, a solo project means like, like a Nate Smith approach, or a Nate Wood approach, or something. You know what I mean? It's like, how many instruments are you programming or triggering or playing at the same time? And it's just cool. It's really cool that like you're pursuing this stuff, and I encourage you to do it, man, because I put out my first record 10 years ago. I recorded it in 2010, but it came out in 2011. And man, I was so nervous about what people thought about it, and was so worried about people being critical about it, because all I wanted to do was just like, I had written some tunes. I just wanted to play them and have something, have something of my own. And I went back over this year and like listened to my earliest stuff. And it's like, it's like evident how far, like I can admit that, like I could say how far I've come, but I wish I had enjoyed the ride while it happened. I feel like I didn't, I feel like I didn't enjoy the fruits of my labor.
when these records came out, and I wish I did. So definitely enjoy it. Like it makes me happy that you're pumped, by it, because you should be. You should be super proud of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of what you're saying. Is that people should really be more mindful about being where they are presently and trying to take stock and appreciate and be grateful for the present moment that you live in, and try to genuinely enjoy what you're doing. Just because right now, I mean, with social media and things like that ruling the way we live our lives, we're all so critical.
Oh yeah.
We're all so perfectionist and trying, and for me with this track, like I openly recognize that, like, I'm not the tightest drummer. I'm not the best. My time isn't like a metronome on it, but when it comes to it, my thing is all about like how does the track feel? How does the track make you feel?
Yeah.
And for me, like I with music and with other things too, it's all about that feeling of like if something makes me feel a certain way, I'm going for it, because that's meaningful. That thing now has meaning, as opposed to like me just shedding 16th notes at 100 BPM around the kit and slaying it and being dope. Like that is a vibe, and that is a feeling for sure. But I think like the particular take that I got on the drums for that solo track has a pretty cool feeling to it, even though there's like some shit I don't play that cleanly, and that, but and that's sort of the way that the most went into recording this sophomore LP, was based on the fact that the first LP that we did was edited to a click, completely edited, completely lined up. That first LP is completely spot on, no fuck ups.
Yeah.
But on this second one, it's live, and there are little nuances, and there are things that aren't particularly spot on. But for some reason, there's like this feeling that you get when you listen to that one compared to the other one.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of points there. So like, one, we definitely live in this like social media driven culture where like, all you have to put out posts, and they all have to be like amazing, and people have to view it and comment it, and that's how you get a gig. Like we're almost fooling ourselves into thinking that like there's this digital audition, and it's kind of bullshit. Like it's all smoke and mirrors stuff. And also, like, related to that is, you're saying that you're not the best drummer. I think you're a phenomenal drummer. I love working with you. A lot of it has to do with your personality and your talent are kind of like intertwined really well. Like I know that like I can call you up and chew your ear off for an hour and we could just chat. I feel like that transfers musically when I've worked with you. And it's like, no, man, I can't stand like chop heavy players. That's why, like, I was talking to I was talking to Josh Bruno on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we were gushing over trumpet players and stuff. And Freddie Hubbard is my second favorite of the classic era trumpet players. It's like Miles, Freddie, Lee Morgan, right? And Freddie had insane chops, and he had insane whatever. But some of my favorite moments of Freddie Hubbard are when he's like recorded fuck ups. The greatest example, and the one that I bring up on the show, is like on Witchcraft, on the records Speak No Evil by Wayne Shorter. On the head out, he fucks it up. But you can tell that it was probably like the 30th take. Wayne's solo is amazing. Herbie's solo is amazing. And of course, Hub's solo is amazing. He just royally fucks up the head out, and he just kind of like owns it in a way. It's like really high, and go back and listen to it. You'll know what I'm talking about. And it's like, that's like one of my favorite moments, because it's like the motherfucker just put it all into it. And that's what I think, like, you know, we get brainwashed by music school to think that like music has to be like perfect and fit together and, you know, and be really cohesive and flawless and polished and all this stuff. And music students, especially jazz students, they need to focus on live recordings way more than they do, because, you know, you listen to you know, Miles's band live, you hear all kinds of like modulations or like, you know, fuck ups, mistakes, clams, all this kind of stuff. And I think if you were exposed to that a little bit earlier, you'd be a little bit more forgiving of your own playing. You know, I think too often we're like, oh no, we have to be a certain level by a certain age, blah 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 blah, and it's not the case, man. Like when I was in school, it was obvious they wanted me to sound like Clifford Brown. But at that time, I was more into like, you know, relaxing with Miles. You know, Miles is like first quintet. Like that was more so my style and what I was capable of playing at the time. Had that been nurtured, I would have been a completely more confident instrumentalist for many years after. But for too long, I was like, oh no, I got to sound like this. I got to play this like Cherokee solo, you know, by Clifford Brown. And we're just not forgiving enough, you know. Like I know that's kind of a ramble, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm pointing to most when I'm talking about this kind of stuff too is more so a balance than anything else. I appreciate the fuck out of a guy who can get around the kit or around his or her own perspective instrument and just put in the time and the energy and the work, and they know their shit, and goddamn they can shred.
Yeah.
That is a thing that I appreciate and I think rules in its own way. However, I think there needs to be a balance between, you know, being able to shred and own and have proficiency in your playing, along with the idea that we can be present in the moment in music, and we can be present in life itself, and accept the fact that we're not all perfect and we're not all there all the time.
Oh yeah.
Because then I'm a huge culprit in not feeling confident enough in my own playing and having that show in my playing too. But I think when we come to terms with the fact that, you know, we can't, when we decide to be present in the music and sort of just accept the consequences of what that means, we end up sounding better. We end up sounding more like ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what everyone wants, as opposed to trying to sound like a certain thing. God knows, like when I was at WestCon, all I wanted to do was sound like Ari Honig. And
oh yeah, that.
And then I
yeah,
got out and I went through all these different phases. Went through like a Yusef Days phase, and
sure,
you know, went through all these different phases, different drummers. But when it comes to you know, performing or playing music in a band, accepting the consequences of who you are and the time that you've put in on your instrument, is ultimately going to make you sound better, I think.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because I bet you never thought, back when you were in school and you wanted to sound like Ari Honig, I bet it never crossed your mind, who did Ari Honig want to sound like when he was that age? You know what I mean? Like, you know, back to Freddie Hubbard, there's great, you know, there's these stories that like the only person who really scared him was Booker Little. And, you know, and Booker's existence basically is a lot of motivation for Freddie Hubbard to like get good at the trumpet. And they were in a band, they were in Slide Hampton's band together. So there were gigs where like Freddie would have to solo, you know, at or with Booker. And, you know, just imagining how scary that must have been. Or another great example is Clifford Brown was the only trumpet player who, if he was in the room, Miles would not play. So like in the early to mid 50s, Miles and Clifford both made like a series of like sextet records. They both had like J.J. Johnson on them, and they both had like Jimmy Heath on them, and like very similar bands. And so I guess like they interacted together a lot in the studio. And if Brownie was in the room, like Miles would not play, which is so terrible. Because imagine if they got the two of them on record, those two different styles. Like Miles is notorious for being insecure of his playing early on, and it's like he was creating a style, but he was too insecure to like show it off to the world, you know, or to admit it. But like, yeah, you know, like same, you know, it's like you know, you think about, you get into a phase and you're like, I want to sound like this person, but you never think to yourself, who did that person want to sound like, you know? And we totally overlook it, you know?
Dude, Clifford Brown, like being a trumpet player in the same room as him and trying to play after he solos, God help you, dude. Like,
yeah,
damn.
I know. He's still, I think Clifford Brown it's tough. Like thank God no one's asked me, but I think it's a very, it's hard, man. Cause it's like, who, you know, for me, it's like, who's the best trumpet player? Not my favorite, who's the best? And you just can't answer it, because it's like, it could be Dizzy. It could, you know, it could be Clifford Brown. It's probably Clifford Brown, but then like you think about Booker Little's playing and you're like, I think it was Booker Little. It's so hard. And then like, you know, Woody Shaw and Wynton, you know, I mean, we forget that Wynton Marsalis is a bad man. You know, it just sucks.
There's a lot of checks. There's a lot of boxes that have to be checked.
Yes.
You're talking about like, okay, who's the best? And at the same time, like, should there be a best?
Well, it's based on your perspective. That's what I love about how this question is unanswerable. It's because it's based on what you find appealing yourself, you know? Mm-hmm. So everybody raves about, you know, a lot of people rave about Kenny Dorham, you know, myself included. If you do if you're doing it based on chops, well, is he the best? Then what makes him the best? If he didn't quite have the same, you know what I mean? It's so different. So you end up liking different players for different stuff, you know? Yes. Like, okay, so who are your drummers then? Like who do you like go, oh, is that person my favorite? No, it's this person. Who, like, what's that list look like?
I think it depends what music we're talking about too. Yeah. Because, you know, I'll listen to different drummers depending on what mood I'm in, like what kind of fun it is. And like going back to what you're saying, like you listen to certain people for their thing, like right. So you listen to Clifford Brown, you hear those clean chops, and you listen to
language and all that shit. Yeah.
Right. You listen to Miles to get that particular feeling. But yeah, for me, if we're going to talk about like just jazz, for me, like if I were to pick some drummers that really hit home for me, I'd say I think, well, let me start with like the classic ones. So like, I think Philly Joe Jones had just the language, you know, his language and like his soloing, his you know, the manipulation of rudimentary studies in his playing in making it in a musical context was just absolute genius. You know, that was amazing too. And they pushed that guy hard at WestCon too, but rightly so. I mean, God damn it, I love his playing so much. I think one of the first recordings I ever heard, or that I ever got into in jazz, was Sonny Rollins' saxophone Colossus.
Oh yeah, Max.
So Max Roach, right?
Yeah.
And his playing on that album just sold me completely on the music itself. So he was big. I really liked you know, I really didn't get into Tony very early. Tony Williams. You know what I mean? Just because he is a really important dude, and he's someone that I definitely admire so much now, but I didn't really get into him that early on. But absolutely, Elvin was the guy. You know, we're listening to drummers for a certain thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Elvin
is a certain thing. And then, you know, we're talking about more modern dudes. Obviously, Ari Honig was huge.
Yeah.
In college, there's a live album called Live at Smalls.
Oh, I love that record.
It's called Punk Bop.
Punk Bop, yeah, so good. That ska tune, I think it's just called ska, where he plays it sounds like a Bad Brains tune. Oh man, it's so good.
Unbelievable. There's a drummer from Brooklyn. His name is Dan Pugak. I think I'm saying his name right.
Oh yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah. Yeah.
He's like a family friend of mine. I've known him since high school. And I was talking to him about this record in high school growing up, and because it came out right around that time when I was graduating and going to college. And I was talking to him and I was like, dude, have you heard this album? And he was like, oh dude, I was taking lessons from him at that time in the city. And you can probably hear me screaming in the front row.
No way.
On the album, because I was there that night when they recorded it. And that was huge for me too. And then to that was awesome.
No, I know what you're saying, because there are many Jeremy Pelt sets from Smalls, and I could distinctly hear myself screaming. So I get it.
Right. To continue on with the modern dudes, I know you've heard me talk about him so much, but that guy Jimmy McBride.
Oh yeah.
He's he's from Connecticut, Hall High School.
Oh shit.
He is 1 year older than me, but he is on a bunch of recordings, and his playing is just.
Yeah, I remember you always talking about him. We would start talking about music, and you would be like, Jimmy McBride, and
yeah, you're like, yeah, man, check out this recording. Jimmy's on it. Jimmy McBride's on it.
Yeah.
I'm really obsessed with his playing.
No, that's cool. I know his playing because he's in Lucas's Nonet, and I'm familiar with Lucas. I caught Lucas's group. Lucas Pino, yeah. I went to Smalls, and I think I got there early, or they were the group on after the group I went to see, and I decided to stay. I paid the extra cover to stay another set because I saw all the horns set up. I probably went to go see Pelt play or somebody, and the group after, there's saxes, a trumpet, a trombone, and I'm like, oh well, this is a treat. So I gotta stay and see this. And I'm pretty sure Jimmy was behind the kid at that gig, because I started kind of following that Nana. I would at least tune in semi regularly when they were playing. I also and because I dig Philip Dzak's playing, and he's in that, or he was in that group, or is in that group. I would not have discovered him if I didn't catch him with that group, basically, is what I'm saying. So it's right. I became aware of Jimmy McBride via Phil, via Lucas Pino, and we were even talking about getting them for the jazz festival before COVID, if you remember, but goddamn,
I was talking to their manager about prices to bring them in.
That's right.
We were talking to a lot of people about bringing them in. A lot of options on the table for that jazz festival.
Man, I think lockdown happened maybe the week after the last meeting we had, where it was like you, me, Pellegrini, I think Avery was there, that woman Kristen was there, and Alexis. It was like, remember, we were at 3 Sheets, we were like planning, we were like designating jobs. I think I really do think that was the week before quarantine began, because it was certainly very close after. I'm trying. It's weird because like, what's up?
The contract was done. Remember, like we had.
Yeah. And I know Eric Hallenbeck's Oregon group was set to play 3 Sheets, and that was the first gig I had to cancel.
You use my drums.
yeah. I remember he was so pissed at me. I was like, dude, like the restaurant's closed. Like, there's nothing I could do. like this is, anyway. But that was the first official event was that jam, and I'm pretty sure that the meeting that we're talking about was like a couple of days before, which is so crazy, dude. Yeah. It's so nuts. But I think it's really important to have, it's like there's the classic players we like. So bringing it back to the trumpet, right? Yeah. Miles, Hub, Lee Morgan, Woody Shaw, Kenny Dorham, Donald Byrd, all those guys. And then I have what I call the second generation guys. So I'm talking like the Eddie Hendersons, the Gary Barts, the Larry Willises, the Buster Williamses, the guys that were like the generation right after that Blue Note generation into like the 90s and maybe early O's, like when I was in college. So like, Dave Douglas is in there too, and that sort of thing. But then there's like modern, right? And I think it's like really important to have a couple of cats that are like not like I say on the show all the time, like Jeremy Pelp's my guy, and he's only like 6 years older than me, so it's like he's virtually like a musical big brother, and Josh Evans. I love Josh Evans's playing, dude. I met him at a music camp when I was like a freshman in high school. Dwayne Eubanks is another one. Josh Bruno, my man, he's young, he's younger than me, and I get so inspired by him. So like when you bring up Jimmy McBride, it's not that out of the box for me. Like, I think people need to have colleagues that they did, because dude, man, like, Eddie tells me stories all the time. So here's one that I think I told Josh Bruno this on the show, but this is a great example. Like, Eddie told me that he drove Freddie Hubbard to the gig that became the Night of the Cookers album, which is like a live album with like Lee Morgan and Harold Mayburn and all these guys. And he's like, yeah, I drove him to that gig, and you could hear me screaming in the audience. And it's like, of course he did, because he was like he was just a couple of years younger than Hub, and that's who his colleagues were, and that's who he was going to check out. Like, it makes sense. I think it's important that we have that kind of thing, because people often like we sometimes idolize like people long dead when there's other people very much alive making very good art, making very good music, but because they're not in a black and white photo, we can't consider them cool for some reason.
Yeah, and people are right now, I mean, before COVID hit, I mean, I was seeing a lot of live music. I remember one of the last shows I saw before COVID hit was going into New York City to see this singer-songwriter. Her name is Madison Cunningham. She's like a singer-songwriter, but she tunes her guitar to like drop C and plays like a Fender Jazzmaster, and she's like super like dirty and groovy, and she is killing. But saw her in New York City. She played with like a trio in Manhattan, and then the show got out early, so we went to Smalls after and saw Steve Nelson Quartet, I think. think he was on,
cool.
Like, I can't remember who was in that band, but we just sort of like showed up, and God damn, that was such a good show. And it was just so random, you know, it was just so like one of those things you just walk. That's what I loved going to see music in the city so much. It was so inspiring every time I went. And that's what I've only been in New Haven since like 2019. And it's been a huge plus as to living here, is just to be able to get to the city. So pretty easily, you know.
Before COVID, it's same. I was seeing a lot of live music whenever I had a free minute. But it's funny, I've had my small subscription for like 5 or 6 years now, and it's like, man, I am so glad I have it. You know, it's even more so. Like, but before the pandemic, there would be plenty of nights where I was like, I'm just not in the mood to drive to the city. So I'll just get on the couch, cast it onto my TV, and just have a beer and watch whatever set. And that is like, you know, and even now with COVID, because that's the only shows they put on are these virtual ones, man, it's been a godsend, you know, just being able to check that stuff out, you know, still be able to see stuff. So I'm glad for all the live shows and all the online concerts that have been happening. I feel like I've been able to check out more because now there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
You know, I just have this, maybe it's me being an asshole, but, you know, I feel like if, you know, people are like, it's wintertime and people are like eating inside. We're eating inside at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can eat dinner inside with other people that we don't know, like, can't we figure out some way to have live shows in some capacity?
So I still have my brunch gig, believe it or not. Every Sunday I'm still playing. It's now only a solo gig. I'm playing with play-alongs, but it's still a gig, and I feel very safe doing it. I'm very far away from the first table, and I wear a mask that has flaps and doodads so I could play the horn through it. I stay masked the whole time, and I mean, it is possible. It sucks that like it's either one or the other. You know what I mean? Even after a year, it's still either draconian, stay indoors, or this doesn't fucking exist. Mm-hmm. And it sucks because there's got to be a middle ground. I think the middle ground is everyone just needs to wear a mask. And even after a year, we're still fighting that nonsense. People,
you know, that's it. I think it's that easy. Okay, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say it's that easy, but I will say that, like, if we can be inside and wear masks and eat dinner with random humans in the same goddamn restaurant, we can figure out a way to sit with random humans with masks on and listen to a live show.
Right. Well, they're starting to do that. They're starting too. Yeah, they're starting to do that in New York, man. Like Smalls announced the other day that they're going to have some limited seating and stuff. I think it is possible. It just requires the bare minimum of people, and unfortunately, that is hard to come by. You know, to be honest with you, I just think that people don't want to fucking do what's right. You know, right. which is stupid as fuck. But what are you gonna do? So, but anyway, Adam, man, it's been awesome catching up with you. I feel like we had like a really good phone call over the summer, and like we haven't really talked much since then. So it has been like super cool to catch up with you tonight.
Same, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Great too.
Keep doing what you're doing, putting out tracks and stuff. Tell everybody where they could hear your stuff, Mega, and the most. Where can people find you?
Sure. I recently launched my own personal website. So all of that stuff you can hear on my website at adamszulczewskimusic.com. all of my musical projects are also on each other's respective Bandcamp pages as well. So the most band ct.bandcamp.com, megabandforever.bandcamp.com, and just my full name, Szulczewski.bandcamp.com.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm definitely going to go back and do a re-listen. I hope everybody does the same or goes to listen for the first time. Definitely got to get Mega on a Mind the Hang show down the line. Yeah, man. And, keep doing what you're doing. Be safe. All my love to you and the fam and Katie. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, take care.
Awesome, and thank you to Adam for joining me on the show. I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Always a pleasure to talk to both Adam and Nate, and it's very reassuring to hear all the creative things that my colleagues are doing in this town. It's great. Our colleagues, I should say. But yeah, another double interview episode is in the bag, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Once again, thank you to everybody who has helped out with the Jazz Underground. Again, I could not have done it without you. 2 years. It feels longer, but in a good way. It's certainly, certainly in a good way, but it feels longer than 2 years. Probably because I've been technically doing it, this kind of work since 2013. No, 2010. 2010. So 11 years now, producing shows, booking shows, and all that good stuff. So please continue to support us. Check us out on Patreon. Check out the Mind the Hang this coming Thursday. And yeah, what else is going on? There are some more Mind the Hangs in the works. More interviews coming up. I'm so happy that next is the 20th episode. Really pumped about that. So anyway, I'm going to sign off with saying thank you again. I could not have done this without you. So without further ado, this has been Mr. Millennial's Revenge. I'm your host, Nick DiMaria. This is a production of the New Haven Jazz Underground, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Not going to lie. All right, take care.